Hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Coming Up Milhouse. And today we are talking about Season 4, Episode 12, Marge versus the Monorail.
That is right. We got our good friend Lyle Langley showing up, the voice of Phil Hartman, the great Phil Hartman, in one of the funniest episodes of the season, in my opinion. So he is this shyster salesman who's going to sell Springfield the monorail because they got $3 million from Mr. Burns acting a fool and sticking nuclear waste in trees. And they got that money. They're going to spend it on a monorail. But the monorail is shoddy because Lyle Langley is a bit of a shyster. But who's going to save the day? Is it going to be Homer? We'll talk about that. Let's kick it off with our lines. What is your first line?
Hi Lisa, I'm Genghis Khan. You'll go where I go, defile who I defile, eat who I eat. Wink. So they are envisioning what they're going to do with the money, and Lisa's daydream is to have the money spent on the education that they're getting at school, and her daydream includes virtual reality headsets, and she meets Genghis Khan. And I thought that was a fabulous line.
Yep, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to teach you about the realities of
and eating whoever he wants to eat.
Yeah.
Doing whatever he wants to eat. Not a friendly guy, even though he was kind of portrayed as one in the virtual reality. I mean, his demeanor was pretty upbeat and peppy like mine just was.
But yeah, the reality not so much.
Not so much. But I liked it.
That is funny.
What about you?
Alright, so my first line is, Simpson, Homer Simpson, he's the greatest guy in history. From the town of Springfield, he's about to hit a chestnut tree. Ah! So the very beginning of the episode kicks it off with a parody of the Flintstones, and that guy pulls the horn, and Homer yabba dabba doos and
slides down instead of a dinosaur.
And he goes through his windshield, the side window of his car, and he's driving home, and he's singing that song, and then of course he hits the chestnut tree because he's kind of silly.
Because he's Homer.
And, you got to start your episode off with a Flintstones reference. We got to go with it.
I know.
All right. What about
line number
two?
It's a long one. I had to turn the page over. And that was the only folly the people of Springfield ever embarked upon, except for the popsicle stick skyscraper, and the 50-foot magnifying glass, and that escalator that went to nowhere. So that line has a little bit of internet reference to it, that the popsicle stick skyscraper reference was from the video game The Simpsons Hit and Run. Do you remember that game?
I remember that. I think it was like a PS1 game or something.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever played it, so I don't remember that reference. But during level 2, the skyscraper is being burned down by the 50-foot magnifying glass. Which in this episode, the same thing's happening, which is fantastic.
That's
at the
funny.
End of this episode.
So they worked the game into this episode. Nice.
Pretty good.
Nice.
So for some hardcore Simpsons fans, there it is.
Go. All right. Well,
what about line 2 for you?
My line number 2 is, I've sold monorails to Broadway, Ogdenville, and North Haverbrook, and by gum, it put them on the map.
And then he shows a map that's hand-drawn.
And it has Broadway, Ogdenville, and North Haverbrook just written in. And that's why it's so silly. And the whole town buys it. It's like, ooh, wow. Impressed by this hand-drawn map and handwritten names in it.
It's crazy.
So there it is. I had to get a line from Lyle.
Of course. What about your favorite scene?
So my favorite scene involves the great Leonard Nimoy, because of course he's in this. I got to reference him. So there's Nimoy and Quimby. They're dedicating the monorail, and Nimoy's like, I believe this vessel will do warp 5, and then Quimby's like, And I also would like to say, may the force be with you. And then Nimoy's like, do you know who I am? And Quimby's like, yeah, I think I do. Aren't you one of the little rascals? Oh, man. And there's a couple more Nimoy things later. Yep. But just Nimoy and the whole thing, just that was my thing. But that scene stood out.
So, fun fact for you that you don't know yet.
Give me the fact.
Leonard Nimoy was not originally supposed to be in this episode. They had originally asked Sulu, George Takei, to be in this episode, and he opted not to be on it because he didn't want to mock public transportation, since he's always been an advocate for public transportation.
Interesting.
And Shatner was also considered, but they scrapped that because he's turned down numerous offers to be on The Simpsons. So Leonard Nimoy is basically between Sulu and Spock, and they went with Spock, which I think is great. And this is not the only episode that he shows up in. So,
he's come to other episodes.
Yep,
so.
I think that Leonard Nimoy was a fan of The Simpsons, and I think it's fantastic. So
and to have Spock, I mean, Sulu would have been cool, but come on, it's Spock, man. You gotta go with Spock.
Yep.
I love it. All right, what about your favorite scene?
I have to go with the whole Monorail song because it is one of the best scenes in any of the episodes, and I got so excited knowing that this was our next episode to talk about. I just love it. And the whole town, they're in the town hall. That whole town hall scene really is the best scene because, like, at one point, Mr. Burns has a fake mustache on. He says his name is Mr. Schnurrub, which is Burns spelled backwards, and he had to pop it out of nowhere. And then he was like, I'm from some far off place. Yes, that'll do. And then everybody knows it's Mr. Burns because Smithers is hanging out with no disguise right next to him, and Mr. Burns in a mustache is not really all that tricky. And then they escape with a Batman grappling hook out of the window, and then the town breaks into song because Lyle just starts the Monorail song, and then they dance out of the town hall, which I think is great. So.
And then Homer flubs the end.
Mono!
After the song's done, he's still singing.
It's a catchy tune that you'll have in your head for days, guaranteed.
Oh yeah, Monorail. Monorail. There, see, it's in your head now. Yep. All right, that's our scenes. Now let's do our winners and losers section. How would you like to do that?
Who's your loser?
My loser is Lisa this time around. And that's rare because, you know, Lisa's usually saving the day and smart and comes up with all the stuff, you know. Well, she is on to Lyle because he goes to their school trying to PR and sell this whole thing. And she could tell he's not on the level, but he totally plays her.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's like, hey, I'll tell you all this stuff, but you're the only one that's smart enough to know what I'm talking about, including your teacher. And she buys it hook, line, and sinker. And that's kind of one of the rare times where Lisa let her vanity, I guess, kind of come in. And I'm sorry, but you came up short on this one, Lisa.
I had a 3-way tie for my loser for this episode. So it's kind of tricky. So I wrote down Lurleen Lumpkin, who shows up in this episode. And she is recovering from something, but is a celebrity to ride the monorail. The popcorn truck driver, who I think is probably my number one out of this.
Yeah, that's a pothole and a half.
And Leonard Nimoy. So the popcorn truck driver, because he drives a truck down Main Street and there are giant potholes, and this one's like a gigantic crater, and the truck goes all the way down in and explodes, and then the popcorn kernels billow up. So he, I think, is probably my winner of my 3 losers. And then Leonard Nimoy, because, Quimby had no clue who he was for real, and
Mm-hmm.
he is trying to talk to people on the monorail, and they don't want anything to do with him, including the guy that he's sharing a seat next to, and the guy, it was tough, because the guy was like, does anyone want to trade seats with me? I don't want to sit by this guy.
And it's like, really? You don't want to sit by Leonard Nimoy? I would have traded.
But he does beam up.
He does beam up.
At the end.
And his work was done, even though Barney points out he didn't do anything.
It's really my way of throwing more conversation about Leonard Nimoy into this.
Well, we're not done with Nimoy, because now we're going into winners. And my winner is actually Krusty. Because as the monorail's going out of control, Krusty freaks out and he's going to jump to his death. Mm-hmm. But Leonard Nimoy saves him. He grabs him as he's flying out and he's like, no. The world needs laughter. So Krusty got saved by Nimoy, so I think that means he won.
It's true.
Yep. What about your winner?
Mr. Bitey. Snake is also on my winner list, but
Snake, yeah. But
Mr. Bitey is a possum that has baby possums in the monorail, and nothing happens. Mr. Bitey, who's obviously not a mister because there are baby possums hanging all over.
Mm-hmm. Probably not a mister, but
gets to hang out in the monorail and raise its young because Homer doesn't want to find a new home for them. So. Mm-hmm. Mr. Bitey, and also Snake, because at the beginning of the episode, everybody in Springfield is in the town hall, and Snake and a few of Snake's friends are ransacking everyone's homes and stealing skis, like water skis, and massive amounts of television. So
right, everybody in this town is so stupid or something. Yep, Snake and Mr. Bitey.
Yep,
good
those are some odd winners, but there you go.
There we go. That is our list for this week of our winners, losers, best scenes and lines for one of the best episodes, also written by Conan O'Brien and Brian, by the way, as I read that in the credits, and he wrote quite a few for this season. Very good stuff. I liked it.
Homer is also the savior. We mentioned that we would talk a little bit about that at the beginning of the episode, and so he does save the day by creating an anchor out of the M for Monorail, and it hooks into one of his favorite restaurants in Springfield, and he ends with a line, "Donuts? Is there anything they can't do?" So watch the episode to find out more about it, and share your love of donuts in the comments below, or anything else that you'd like to share with us.
That's right. And we really appreciate you watching, and thank you to all of our subscribers. We really appreciate that. If you'd like to subscribe to our channel, help us out, we would definitely appreciate that. So that is our episode, Marge versus the Monorail. Good stuff. We will be coming back at you next week with the next one in line. And until then,
Jiminy
Jillikers!